Hey, y'all, and welcome to Voices Beyond the Pages, the podcast where stories and voices meet. I'm your host, Audrey Shaunice, an audiobook narrator who got her start on TikTok, sharing my journey with all its highs, lows, and everything in between. Each episode, we celebrate the voices shaping the storytelling world, BIPOC narrators, indie authors, and the readers who love them. Whether you're here to learn, be inspired, or just feel seen, you're in the right place. Grab a drink and get comfy. You're going to love it here. Hey, y'all, and welcome back to Voices Beyond the Pages. Today's guest is someone whose words hold weight, history, and heat. She doesn't just write stories, she bends time, layers emotion, and leaves breadcrumbs of brilliance in every paragraph. You may know her as Author Nastee, but I know her as Tab, my sister, my best friend, and the mind behind some of the most masterful storytelling I've ever seen. For over 11 years, she's been redefining what it means to write Black characters in paranormal and urban romance. Her work moves through third-person POV with precision and power, and she's got this uncanny ability to make the past feel alive, while still keeping it light, sharp, and deeply resonant. Her latest release, the final book in the Brothers Unholy series, just dropped, and y'all, we have a lot to talk about. We're unpacking her creative process, how it really feels to close a trilogy that lived in her spirit for years, and what true representation looks like when supernatural meets soul. So, settle in, turn the volume up, and tap in. You're listening to Voices Beyond the Pages, where stories and voices meet. You're going to love it here. Welcome back to Voices Beyond the Pages. Today, I have Author Nastee, and we will be talking about her creative process and getting into the mind of the creator of the Brothers Unholy series, of the Dope Man's Fine Ass Son series. So, if you've ever wanted to know what her process is like, how she gets her ideals, where she came from, or just learn about her more in general, um, we're about to jump right in. All right, Author Nastee, or my friend Tab. This is really my sister, y'all, and I love her down so much. I really can't express how much I love her. But yeah, we're having her on today, and she's going to tell us about Brothers Unholy. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm really good. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. So, for those of you who don't know, for the listeners who might not know who you are, give us a brief synopsis of just who Author Nastee with two E's is.
The fucking menace. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm really not kidding. I would say, obviously, other people call me nasty. My sisters sometimes call me Tabby. Either way, just don't call me Tabitha. I have been writing for the last 10 to 11 years. Really, I've been writing longer than that, but I started professionally writing about 10 years ago. I basically write whatever the fuck I want to. And listen, if I can't cuss too much, probably tell me that because I got a little bit of a kind of mouth, but
Probably you are absolutely okay, and I would have told you that beforehand.
okay, good.
So
I do write whatever I want to write whenever I feel like writing. I previously in my former catalog had over 70 books published. But after a deep dive of a rebrand, I was like, oh, what do we want to do? We want to do everything and nothing. And so I've just been like slowly rolling everything back out.
love a good rebrand because sometimes it is just necessary because we evolve as people, as humans, as writers, as creatives, especially. We just, you know, what used to work doesn't always work, for what we've grown into. So, we're going to hop into the first question. So, you say you've been writing for over a decade. Um, as your creative, or how has your creative voice matured over this time? And like, what do you think has stayed the same? I know recently you have looked at some of your old work and you were saying like, ooh, cringy.
Absolutely. Um, I would say that one of the major things that I literally just recently noticed was I used to write from a place of trauma.
Mm,
My love stories were so traumatic because I was experiencing so much trauma.
mm,
So I would literally be taking pieces of my relationships and highlighting them, but writing myself these happily ever afters. And I think that now I don't write from a traumatic place, I write from a
mm,
healed place. So the
mm,
stories are different, the situations are different. I think that's something that's always stayed the same is I love family. Family is something that for the rest of my life, I know that I'll be writing about, I'll be talking about, that will always be like a key part of who I am. So that has always remained the same. I always write about family dynamics. Um, I think also something that I noticed that has changed is just like the kind of stories that I want to tell versus the kind of stories that I used to tell. And not even so much just like those traumatic beginnings and happy endings, but
mhm.
so much is like genre based, the way I want to write them, the way I roll the stories out. I used to be very much like pow, 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 pow. Now, like, every chapter, boom, 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 boom,
Yeah,
boom. But I think that now, and again, a decade ago, I was what, 23 years old. I'm
yeah.
33 now.
Hmm.
I'm a totally different
Yeah.
person now.
Everything has changed. Your mindset.
Everything.
Yeah.
And back then, my life was so fast, so fast, so fast, so fast. Of course, everything I wrote was fast in a boom, boom, boom kind of way. But now I live a much slower life. And that's reflected as far as like my writing goes to the buildups, right?
Yeah.
I'm not somebody who feels like you got to have crazy shit or drama in every chapter. Does it add to the plot line? I'm here for the plot.
Here for the
So
plot. Do it for the plot.
do it for the plot. I ain't gonna do it. They ain't gonna do it. I am. I'm gonna do it for the plot. So
And
I
I
think
think
that
that
those are some of the
that is definitely necessary for just growth in general. Like, I like to see my authors and people, and people in general, but especially in stories where you're reading someone's catalog and you see how their writing style has changed. You see how it's evolved. You see, if you have access to them through social media, you get to see that their life has changed and who they are has changed and all those things. So it's expected for their writing styles to, change, but there are things that is nice to know that you have kept the same. So we'll jump into the next question. Your stories are very much layered with time shifts and what I would call like generational echoes and non-linear
Oh,
moments, where we are not just stagnant because time is not a straight line. You know what I mean?
it's
Um,
not.
when you're writing, how do you decide which moments deserve to be like bent or like stretched out?
Okay, so I think for me, because I love history so much, And then
Mhm.
also, you know this about me, but other people don't know this about me. I do not believe in the construct of time in a sense that hours and minutes and things like that was man-made.
Yeah.
So when I think about time, I don't think about it in that kind of way. I think about
Mhm.
it more so in a sense of like the world says that this happened between this decade and this decade,
Mhm.
but it could quite literally still be happening right now,
Yeah.
also in the same way,
Yeah.
but maybe in a different universe. Maybe
Mhm.
an alternate you is
Yeah.
doing those kind of same things. And I think what I love most about time and history is there's always something there that someone remembers, and each moment is remembered differently. So where someone, and of course, because I love JFK, I'll just mention that the way
Mhm.
someone else might have remembered, the assassination, someone else might have saw it and remembered it so like
Yeah.
a totally different piece of that.
Yes.
So I take the pieces that stand out the most to me,
Mhm.
whether that's like and sometimes that could be like a place, right? Nashville
Mhm.
is so rich in history. We have so many landmarks. So I always try to highlight landmarks that I know people will notice because they are a part of time. Time is not just about time. It's about people, it's about places, it's about landmarks, it's about nature. It's literally time is literally in everything.
Yeah. It's about the things that exist within those moments because without those moments, time is nothing. Without the people who inhabit time, time is really nothing at all because yeah, so I
Things
understand
move
that
through
completely.
time. Time
Mhm.
doesn't move through things.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, that's such a beautiful take on just time in general because I don't think that everybody's mindset is like that. Everybody thinks about time so differently and it's good to see different perspectives, of course. But we're gonna start talking about your writing style and getting into like your world building and inspiration and stuff like that. So I know my sister loves to write in third person because she's a storyteller more than anything. So I know you commit to third person like it's second nature, really. Um, what does using that POV or that perspective allow you to do that you feel like first person just doesn't? Because I think a lot of people don't understand that and third person POV kind of gets a bad rap.
Man, it gets it's I like to say that third person is like the middle sister of writing
Mm.
because I will read it, but I prefer first person. First person, of course, is the big sister. Fuck her.
Yeah.
Like, third person allows me to paint a different picture. When you're inside of the mind of a first person writer or character, you're only getting what they know. And that's not
Yeah.
always the truth. Like what they know is just their perspective, it doesn't make it true.
Mhm.
So for me, I'm like, no, I want you to know the truth the way it is, exactly the way it is, so that there is no confusion. So for me with third person, I enjoy being able to show a much bigger picture. First person is so very much in this room with us. Third
Yeah.
person is so very much in this house with us, outside the house, across the street, on another
Mhm.
part of town, in another city, in another state. It's 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 literally everything. And I guess again, kind of just relating back to time, right? Time is everything. Third person is everything. So I'm always writing in an everything but true kind of way because I don't
Yeah.
want it to be misconstrued. Now, of course, I still use dialogue, right? Because obviously we can't go the whole book, ain't nobody talking. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But but also at the same time, one of the major things that I feel like third person allows me or any other third writer to do that first person doesn't is a lot of times with first person writers, they're describing themselves. They're
Yeah.
describing that character as themselves, which is crazy as hell because it just comes off as arrogant. And
Mhm.
also, a lot of times we don't even really know ourselves. So you're telling me who you think you are. What do other people think you are? Who do other people think you are? That's
Yeah.
actually who you are. Like
Yeah.
I want to know who these characters are based on facts. I want to know who these characters are based on action. First person heavily relies on internal monologue and
Yeah.
dialogue.
Hmm.
It's not so much plot driven. I want to
Yeah.
rely on.
I think that it does. Like as a new writer, getting back into writing, I was writing my book in first person POV because that's what I was reading when I started writing. And so now I'm kind of, and I was going to talk to you about this later, but we're here now. um, I'm having a problem with like tense because I feel like my mind wants to explore moments deeper from a different perspective than I was before. And I find myself now feeling incredibly limited by first person POV.
Mm.
So that is an issue that I'm having right now where it's like, okay, I feel like there's more to see here, but I'm so incredibly limited because I'm only speaking from this person's point of view. So I think my time away from writing and having my sisters be such amazing authors and such an amazing resource in general, just a community as well. It has made me a better writer, but before I even started back writing again, I didn't even realize like, okay, my writing style hasn't necessarily changed, but my perspective on writing has changed. So, yeah, I understand it.
And I think that that's so important because even for me, my perspective has definitely changed on writing.
Mhm.
Maybe not so much in what person, but kind of in what perspective, but kind of in a sense. Because a lot of my earlier books were written in first person. And that's another reason why I cringe when I go back and read them because I'm like, dang, if I would have said this, like from a third person point of view, I could have painted this picture so differently. This book could have it was good, but it could have been
Mhm.
great.
Yeah.
But I also think that that has a lot to do with just defining your own writing style. And it really also comes down to you only know what you know until you know something different. A lot of
Mhm.
writers are writing in first person because they don't know any different. And they're told to believe what? First person is more personal. But
Mhm.
that's not true. First
Yeah,
person is not necessarily more personal just because you're using the words I, me, and my.
yeah, because you can make it. I think what makes third person more personal or adds, that kind of personal touch to third person, in my opinion, is when you have dialogue that is what is the
Meaningful.
word? Yes, there you go. Dialogue that's meaningful because every every sentence, every word, every phrase is meaningful in a book, but every piece of dialogue and from first person POV is not always meaningful. It doesn't always need to be there. If we explored it from a different POV, then, we would sometimes be able to make our writing or make the book a little bit better, make it I don't know. I think you understand what I'm trying to say.
No, I definitely understand what you're saying. It literally make it more meaningful. I think a lot
Mhm.
of times, kind of like I said before, with first person, you're relying so much on that
Yeah.
dialogue that it almost becomes a transition piece. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't know how to end this because I've had them talking so much. Versus
Mhm.
third person, it's like those moments where your characters are speaking, they're so meaningful because you're literally getting a more defined version
Yeah.
versus with first person, it already seems in a sense defined, but it's defined by what they told you, not
Yeah.
so much defined by what you saw.
Mhm.
And that also goes back to showing versus telling. Are you
Yeah.
showing me or are you telling me?
Yes, exactly. So let's get into world building. Where do you find the spark to set a story into motion? Like, um, is it a character, a scene, a specific line? Like, Where do you find that spark?
It's all of those things and nothing at all, and it's also delusion. Honestly, a lot of my books come from delusion. Like they come
You know
from the
them delusion.
things. Yeah, like I love a good delusion. Like a
Mhm.
lot of times when I'm imagining a book, it could be something that I heard, but it was in my mind though.
Mhm.
Like, or I might hear a song, right? I might hear a bar and be like, oh shit,
Yeah.
that's a book. You know, where other people might be
Yeah.
like, that's a hook. I'm like, no, nigga, that's a book.
Yeah.
Because I see things so visually. I might be about to go to sleep and I might close my eyes and blink. And as soon as I open them up, I just saw something.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I'm inspired literally by everything. Other people's attitudes, their energies. Sometimes the things people wear, I might be like, damn, that'll be bomb on a character. I might hear
Mhm.
somebody's name and I'd be like, shit, that's a FMC. So I'm inspired by absolutely everything and especially my own delusions.
You know how I feel about delusions. There's a fine line between being delusional and between delusion and manifestation.
Yeah.
So
Got to have
anyway,
a healthy piece of both.
you do absolutely have to have a healthy piece of both because honestly, without delusion, like delusion is just you believing something that really isn't true. But sometimes you have to do that in order to make your dreams come true. And that's just a fact.
On. And I'm ready for that.
The worlds in your books feel tangible, like they could like exist whether you're reading or not reading. And I really feel like that is the mark of a good, storyteller too, is that you can make a world feel like it's right down the street, across the road in another state, you know? Um how do you approach building like a supernatural or a paranormal systems that feel real but are still rooted in like blackness?
Well, that's a really fun question.
Mm.
I think for me, because at the horcrux of who I am, I'm black.
Mhm.
Like, yes, I am everything else, but I am black every day I wake up. When I go to bed, I'm black. But also I have been fortunate enough to be raised in a city that is rich in blackness. A
Mhm.
lot of people, when they think about Tennessee and it being black, they automatically think about Memphis. People forget that Nashville is home of country music. And we know that country music got adopted by white people. It didn't get started with white people. It was adopted by them. So country music is deeply rooted in black roots. What's also deeply rooted in black roots? Blues,
Mm.
bluegrass, things like that. So I come from a rich city already in blackness. Um, and then also I would just say for me, every book is about home. And so I want everybody when they read my books to feel like they're at home. And if they're not in their home, they're in a home that they could still envision for themselves.
Mhm.
So when I'm creating systems and worlds and things like that, I want everybody to still have that like fictional spin. But more than anything, I want them to feel at home because we read for an escape.
Mhm.
We read to go
Absolutely.
somewhere else, but a lot of people have a hard time going somewhere else in their mind, even when they read. So it's
Yeah.
almost like you just went to your neighbor's house and you still feel
Yeah.
comfortable over there because you didn't have to go that far. And
Mhm.
so that's always my goal with my books is I don't want them to ever be so far out there in the thought process that like you can't relate. I always
Yeah.
want you to feel it.
And that's I really enjoy that about your writing anyway. And the, I just had a thought. I was like, you just have such a. I know Jazzy says Jazzy Book Talk Ricky always says you have a magical brain, but I was like, you have such a historically magical brain. You know,
Uh,
because I am very much not history, and I feel like it, in this moment, of course, I'm doting on you all the time, but um, I feel like I've been blessed with sisters and people in my life who are better at things that I'm bad at. You know what I mean? It's like you guys are very much the missing pieces to my puzzle, you know? I don't have to be because I know somebody else, I have you guys to kind of fill those blanks in for me because, it's like picking the pieces up. But anyway.
We feel the same about you though. You are also always a missing puzzle piece for us too. A
But
Lego
yeah,
snap.
a Lego snaps. um, you've made vampires feel like fresh and complex and culturally rich. Um, so what's made you most intentional about shaping them in the Brothers Unholy universe?
Man, that's also a really fun question. I feel like as someone who learned how to read from reading books like Goosebumps, um, things written by Stephen King, like I learned how to read from reading those books. So I've always been very passionate anyway about my imagination and fantasy and paranormal things and the things that go bump in the night, which is actually really funny because afraid of the dark comedy. But comedy. But um also growing up that way, I read books like Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, the House of Night series. I read all of these books where vampires and werewolves and fae and witches and all these things, they were so cool, but they were never normal. Like
Mm,
they were never a normal thing. But to me, they were normal because that's how I learned how to read. Those are the shows I watched. Those are the books I read. Those are the things that I was kind of in a sense raised around. And it wasn't until I think maybe a little bit after Twilight came out. I had been reading the books. I was in college at the time, and my roommate, she was like, I know we're gonna go see the movies, but I want you to read the books. And I was like, there's no way on God's green earth that I would suffer through 5,000 pages of these. I've already seen the first two movies. I don't know. And
I'm
she
not
was
doing
like, I'm not doing that. And she was like,
that.
you've got to do it. You've got to do it. So I read the Twilight books and I was like, okay. Well, okay. I fell in love with the series, right?
hmm
And what I noticed though was that I was the stereotype that I hated. The people who will watch the movies won't read the books. The
Oh,
people
okay,
who will
yeah.
read the books won't watch the movies, right? Because they'll say
hmm
stuff like, I like to watch that stuff on TV, but I don't want to see that in my books. Why not?
Yeah. Hmm.
Why don't you want to see that in your books? And so for me, it was like with Brothers Unholy, I'm like, I got to bridge some stuff together for my people because we are already at a deficit in reading.
Yeah. I
Black
agree.
literature and Black children reading is already at such a deficit. And why? Because first and foremost, their parents don't know how to read or don't like to read.
Yeah.
So when they go to school, that's the only reading that they're taking in. They're not doing it at home. But they're not doing it at home not only because their parents are not doing it at home, but because nobody's encouraging these kids or the parents for that matter
Yeah.
to find books that they like. They're being forced to read the things at school. To Kill a Mockingbird. My God, today.
Yeah.
To Kill a Mockingbird. Don't get me wrong. But as somebody who maybe wouldn't have wanted to read, I can
hmm
kind of see how To Kill a Mockingbird might turn you down, baby. That might turn you off.
Yeah.
So
Not
I really
interesting.
wanted to do something that was like, I really wanted to put on for us. Like,
hmm
I wanted to bridge that things I like, things that are kind of weird a little bit, because I don't understand what the hell's going on. And mash those things together in a way that would be mentally pleasing, but also
hmm
still physically pleasing if you could imagine it in your mind. So I knew that I had to make them, yeah, vampires, but I had to make them very much regular people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's but I think that when it comes to reading or it comes to anything, honestly, when especially with kids, um, they are like blank canvases, you know. Kids are they don't know anything. So whatever you are emulating, whatever you're doing, whatever you're into, they are going to pick that up inherently. So it's necessary for parents to show children that it's okay to read, but you can't make a reader not, how do you make someone into how do you make someone a reader? You just it just either is in you or it's not. But
And it's strictly like influence.
mhm.
I wanted to read because Samantha made it seem so cool.
Yeah.
She collected all the Goosebumps books, and I was like, this is cool as shit. Like she's got all these books stacked up against her wall. She's like actively reading these books every day. I thought it was the coolest thing on
Yeah.
the planet, and turns out it was. It still is.
So now that now that the final book in Brothers Unholy is out in the world, not the final book, but the third book, part 1.
Yes.
How are you sitting with that, you know, with the series ending? Is it like peaceful? Is it a little making you a little restless? Is it a little bit of both? I have my take, but
God today. I think that it's a lot of everything, right? In a lot of ways, I am very restless. In a lot of ways, I'm very sad. In a
Mhm.
lot of ways, I feel like it's akin to your children going to college.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of my house. But
Mhm.
also, I'm going to miss you when you're gone. I
Yeah.
want nothing but the best and happiest days for you. I want you to prosper. I want you to do well. And I feel like it's the same thing with Brothers Unholy. I feel like Brothers Unholy gave me a lot of things. It challenged me in a lot of ways. It changed my life. And truly, it led me to y'all. It led me to
Mhm.
you. So
Mhm.
forever and ever and ever for the rest of my life, I will be grateful and thankful to what Brothers Unholy has done. Um, and I'm sure that when it is completely over, I will probably have that moment where I probably will cry for real
Yeah.
because it was an emotional journey getting here. I have suffered a lot of losses, but I've had so many gains too. So
Yeah.
it's like, damn, I think it will finally come full circle for me. And honestly, right now, I think I'm feeling more than anything excitement, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm getting to also do one of the things I love most, which is learn more. Because I've
Yeah.
been really having to get in my like research
Res-
bag.
yeah.
So it's like while I've been really frustrated because I have to keep going back, I'm like, oh, this is cool as fuck. Like I've been writing down, I've been writing down all the stuff I've been learning. Like I don't know when I'm gonna bring this shit up in conversation, but I bet I do.
So as we're talking about emotional and how this series has brought you so many things, not just within the book space, but in your real life too. What do you think is the hardest emotional thread to close? Like, is it a character? Is it a storyline? Or something that you just don't want to let go?
Oh, not me getting emotional hearing that question. I think the hardest thing um to let go maybe or something that I will be devastated to close up is like I look at the friendships. I look at the friendships and the brotherhoods, right? I don't even want to say friendships because I don't really believe in friendship. I believe in family.
Mhm.
So, like, I'm looking at Zuri and Sacred and Amunet, and I'm looking at how, sure, they were forced together because of a prophecy, but they stay together and they continue to choose each other.
Mm.
I'm looking at Sincere. I'm looking at Tyrion. I'm looking at Mally. And yes, they are biologically brothers. And yes, they did become vampires together, but they continue to choose each other. I'm watching all of these characters continue, even when it is difficult to choose the people that they love, because they know at the end of the day, life is not even worth living if you don't have people around
Yeah.
you. So I
Yeah.
think that that is the hardest thing, watching those things come to an end. Like knowing that, yeah, somewhere in my mind they are still going, but
Hmm.
on the outside, like they will have closed a huge chapter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
hopefully one day we'll start another one. Like I think that's probably the hardest thing, watching those familial relationships close.
When she said another one, she don't mean another book.
Heck no. Once they
um,
gone, they gone.
you weave history into into your world building really, like, honestly, effortlessly. What part of your real life past inspired something in Brothers Unholy that readers may not even realize?
Oh
Hmm.
man, that kind of made me want to cry a little bit. So I would say maybe not so much situation based, but like maybe the reasons
Mm.
for the history kind of thing. So I make that joke all the time that my grandma was a hoe, but that wasn't no joke. She really was. She wasn't no
Hmm.
grandma for real. Like she wasn't no grandma. She was my mama's mama. Like no cap. Like So I didn't have a grandmother for real. But my aunt, my mom's oldest sister,
Hmm.
she was like our big mama,
Mm.
and she marched with Martin Luther King, and she was a big part of like aiding the Black Panther Party. Like
Wow, that's
she
awesome.
was, yeah, she was very historically active. Um, and as a kid, even though I did, of course, love to read, I love to read fiction, but she made me read a lot of nonfiction, right? So she would bring me books about the presidents. Who cares about that crap? But I would read them though. And she would make sure that I knew like English. She wanted to make sure I knew British history, American history. Like she wanted me to do all these things. Um, and because of that, I grew so attached to history, especially the civil rights movement, especially slavery, because I was able to live through her storytelling. She's really the OG storyteller of our family. And I never thought about how that impacted me. Um, Maybe until recently. I never considered it. But I am truly a storyteller because of her. And I think that at the core of Brothers Unholy, that yeah, it is about family and things like that, but it's also about lineage. It's also about legacy. It's also about changing time while still living in that time. And
Yeah.
so I think that those were pieces that were in there, like preserving legacy. And to me, I feel like I'm helping to preserve her legacy by talking about topics that I know that she was passionate about, by spreading the joy and knowledge of literacy and black power and black excellence, and
Mm.
not traumatizing our not continuing
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
traumatize us, but still highlighting it while changing it altogether. I had
Yes.
never considered that until maybe a couple of weeks ago. So I think that is what from my personal life, and even some of the relationships that are mirrored, right?
Mhm.
Because and again, a lot of this shit was like subconscious. No,
Yeah.
no, all of it was subconscious. Truthfully, like it was all very much subconscious. Like none of this was really done on a conscious level. Like truthfully,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
There's Sonya, Sacred, and Mally. They're in a polyamorous relationship.
Yeah.
Obviously, I am also, but
Mhm.
I wasn't in that relationship when I started writing about
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, but like it definitely is developing in that way
Mhm.
more because of my own relationship. Zuri, Sacred, and Amunet becoming so close, even though only Zuri and Sacred are related, right? I'm so close
Mm.
to y'all.
Yeah.
I didn't know you before that,
Yeah. So it's
but
just like almost like you were writing, like it's subconscious, but at the same time,
I
some of the
manifested
things,
this.
yeah, you manifested it. Like it was right there, but I don't know. We always talk about time travel and us like having other abilities and stuff. And so maybe that kind of lends to that a little bit where it's like, you not even so much subconsciously, but like almost in a psychic way.
That,
Which
but
sounds crazy, but
it doesn't sound crazy because I say all the time, like I feel very clairaudient, that I hear things
mhm,
I'm not supposed to hear, that conversations be being had that I know I'm not supposed to know about. And
mhm,
honestly, I think that Brothers Unholy was that. It was some
yeah,
I almost feel like, and again, this is gonna definitely sound crazy in relation to what you just said, but I as I continue to sit back and think about Brothers Unholy, and I made this joke with myself, haha. But it wasn't really a joke in a way. I kind of thought about like, what if our ancestors were sitting back having a conversation about Brothers Unholy and I overheard it?
mm,
And I just wrote that shit.
that's wild. And it's like crazy. But if we're talking about so Brothers Unholy is a very much loved, adored series, and I know people do not want it to end.
Jesus.
But if you had to write one final bonus chapter after the end of this to part two or part one, is it part you calling it part one, right? Of
The one that's already out, yes, part one.
Okay, that's so part two. So if you had to write one final bonus chapter, is just a whisper of an epilogue. What would it be about, and who would it be centered around?
That's a fucking question. Because I actually do know how, obviously I'm writing this shit. I do know how how it actually ends. I think if there was an epilogue, I think it would be about going back in time again. I think there would be another Jasper Rich, but not Jasper Rich, to go back in time and to fuck up another timeline.
Ooh.
Another historical event that gets jacked up because of Jasper Rich, but it actually ends up turning out just like Brothers Unholy, the exact way that it was always supposed to, with Black people winning.
So that's what
Something
y'all
that was
get.
made to go against us, still shaping
Mhm.
up to be exactly what we need.
Mm. See, dang. The way you be thinking just be having me thinking, dang.
Not be having you
but
thinking.
um So you were just talking about your aunt, and that kind of made me think about this next question. It's like in a space where Black voices are often excluded from like the paranormal narrative, um, how intentional are you about making us like powerful, uh, making us powerful, like messy, nuanced, and like mystical kind of, if that makes sense.
So I feel like Black people or people of color in general, I feel like we are God's chosen people.
Mm,
I genuinely believe that. And I think that we always had all these mystical things. Like, I think we were already very, very magical people. I think
mhm,
we probably did have magic powers. I think at one point, maybe we were, as much as I hate them, werewolves. I think that maybe at some point, maybe Anne Rice, when she wrote Interview of the Vampire, maybe she just wrote it white because she was white. But
mhm,
maybe she actually did cross paths with a Black vampire, a Black Lestat. Maybe
mm.
she did, and maybe when she wrote that shit, it was like, "Ooh, I gotta get this out of my head." And maybe she went and took it to the publishers and they was like, gotta make this white. Black folks don't like this shit,
Yeah, that's true.
you know? And I think that somewhere along the line, we lost our magic. We
Yeah.
lost it because we adapted to what somebody else told us our religion was supposed to be. We adapted to a language that somebody else told us we were supposed to speak. So I feel like in a lot of ways, we were already all of these things. And when you speak about power, right? When you talk about power, the real power is knowledge. Like,
Mm,
even when there are magical powers involved, the real power is in knowledge, it's in passing that shit down. So for me, I wanted to take those elements and kind of remind us like, we were low key already these things. Somebody else told us we couldn't be.
yeah.
Somebody else told us to assimilate to survive. Ain't no assimilation. They can either get down or get down.
Get down or get put down. Right.
Get down or get put down.
What do you wish more readers or even authors in this case understood about representation that goes beyond just being inclusive or inclusion?
Oh, I think that representation looks not only like a skin color.
Hmm.
Representation looks like culture. Representation looks like family. Representation does not always look like a political agenda.
Yes, absolutely.
Representation sometimes genuinely looks like what you sit down with at dinner every night.
Hmm.
Representation doesn't always have to be some like ginormous thing.
Yeah, it doesn't
You
have to
can,
always just be skin color. Sometimes representation
yeah,
shows different family dynamics, things
yes,
like that. It's not just about when you say, oh, you want representation, we're not just talking about, oh, we need black, white, Hispanic, Asian, cultures in the picture. We need to see different family dynamics. We need to see a mom and an aunt raising the family together, or to see a
yes,
polyamorous family raising children together, or to see a gay family, or whatever it is, gay parents, or whatever the case may be. It's about family dynamics. Sometimes it is just about race, but I think that we have to change what our our view is on our view on representation really is, you know.
yes. And I wish above all, what we would choose to represent is love. A
Mhm.
lot of times we shine light on so many things, not realizing that we're perpetuating a spirit of hate
Yeah.
where we should be speaking more about love, where we should be. I always say, a person who begets a child in love, that child will beget 10 more children in love. A
Right.
lot of times in books, what really needs to be represented is healthy love. And that doesn't just mean that, Bobby and Susie love each other and they have a baby. No, sometimes Aunt Susie can't have a baby. So maybe Aunt Susie has to go adopt a baby. And maybe she can't raise that baby with her husband. Maybe she goes to raise that baby with her best friend because platonically they're soulmates. Like, I think we have to just look at life for what it is. And it's so broad. It's so many different things. I want representation to be something that we look at beyond also sometimes to the negative things because we know how to do that good. We know how to represent negative things. We struggle sometimes to represent and highlight positive things. So I want representation to be more positive.
That is a wonderful take on that. I always feel like my brain be tingling sometimes when we have conversations, you know?
Brain tingle, or as Barbiana would say, that makes my brain, that scratches my brain.
Scratches my brain. Um,
Just my brain.
I know I personally haven't read Aurora's Dragon, but I know
Ooh,
everybody is looking forward to that. And
you had to go dig deep for that.
they be putting their foot on your neck about that. Um, yeah, y'all need to get off my sister neck. She got enough stuff. But
Enough
anyway,
stuff on my neck.
is there a myth, a creature, or supernatural like concept that you've been dying to write about, but you just haven't gotten to yet? I know you have so many up there in your brain, and we've heard about so many concepts and whatnot. But is
Facts.
there anything?
Yes, I think that's something that I've always been like really curious about or that I love. I love like the Greek and Roman gods.
Mm,
But the reason for that is I feel like because it's not a monolith,
Mm-hmm.
it offers so much more diversity. And I would love to do some really fun takes on that and like make them black so that we can
Mm.
understand.
Yeah.
Um, I also would I've never been necessarily intrigued by like bear shifters or tiger shifters or anything that's shifting except for dragons. I think that the dragons is just lit. Like you could
Yeah.
be standing up 1 second, flying the next. That's crazy. I love that. But but also at the same time, I think that I would love kind of like how in True Blood, like Sam, he was a regular puppy dog.
Oh.
Imagine your puppy dog is actually a person. Oh
Oh.
shit. That's kind of scary, but
Yeah.
interesting. I would love to take a spin on regular creatures, just like domesticated animals, but they're
Mm-hmm.
really shifters, but they've been protectors, they've been familiars, and you
Oh,
just
that's
didn't know.
cool.
You just had no clue.
Hmm.
It would be kind of creepy at first because, like, damn, my dog does see me naked a little bit.
Yeah.
But like, also, why you getting undressed in front of your puppy dog?
Mm.
Maybe your
People
puppy
do
dog wanted to
everything.
tell you not to do that, but he couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Imagine Maggie and Maggie being
She would be cussing me out.
probably so. Probably
No,
she
definitely.
already do that in barks. So
Ugh, excessively. For sure. She do not like Maggie do not fuck around.
so we're coming to a close here, but if you if one of your characters had to narrate your life for a week, who would it be and why? Who would you choose?
I feel like I have to choose a male character. And the reason is, I mean, I'm kind of a nigga a little bit at heart. Um, oh, that is a question. I feel like if I were going to choose, honestly, it would probably be Mally. I think Malicio would have to be the narrator of my life because he understands me, because
Mm.
he is me in a lot of ways. He
Mhm.
is the younger sibling.
Yeah.
He is also the sibling that's the most eager to prove himself.
Mm.
He is also the sibling who is, for all intents and purposes, the most different, but he's also the most loyal. He's the most caring. He's the most compassionate. So I think he's the most complex and the most like multi-layered.
Mhm.
So I think that he could see my life and be like, you know what? I get this. I I understand this. So I think
Yeah.
that he would have an understanding and compassionate take for my life.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I like that. I like that for real. Honestly, I feel like I have so many thoughts, but my mind is jumbled right now. It just my brain is tingling so much. I just
Come on,
don't
Tingling.
know what to do. um, what's a line you've written that still kind of lingers in the back of your mind? Not necessarily like necessarily the loudest, but the one that like hits the deepest, you know?
Oh, I mean, I'm not gonna say there are so many because honestly, once I write something, I'm most likely to forget it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think one of like the most recent lines that I said, and I can't exactly remember what the line is, but it was basically to the effect of that Jasper's masculine energy basically waited for permission to dominate Pearl's feminine energy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I feel like that's such a big thing because a lot of men, they just come in, all that masculine energy, rah, 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 shut up and calm down. You do not need to come over here A-town stomping on nobody's head to let me know that you a nigga. Chill out, bruh. And I think that so many men they don't allow their women to get comfortable in that masculine energy. They just expect them to do it. Like, I'm the man, kiss my ass. No, give me a second. Because your masculine energy is strong, but my feminine energy is strong too. And I want to be able to live in that feminine energy and experience your masculine energy the same way I want you to experience my feminine energy while living in your masculine energy. So I think for me that was very, very impactful because I have been blessed to experience a love that waits for permission to dominate me. It does not take it.
Yeah,
It waits for my consent.
like that. Love some good consent around these
We like some good consent. And because there's consent, I'm going to give it to you
parts.
because you asked for it. Yes, the answer is yes.
So, is there anything you want the audience to know about you, about the Brothers Unholy series? Just tell us what you've been up to lately for a few minutes, and anything you want the audience to know before we go.
I above all want everybody to know that I write slow burns, but I don't write slow books. I am not interested in a whole bunch of sex because if you want to be honest, y'all not getting busted down every day either. I prefer to write books that can survive without that and highlight real romance. What have I been up to? I'm just trying to finish Brothers Unholy. and I have been, of course, crafting other series in the background because I am a series writer. I think that's also something important to know. Standalones, you can wrap that up. If you over here looking for that, I can't do it. And if you don't like the wait, if you impatient, don't read my books. I can't help you. I would also say don't always be expecting the same thing. It's okay for me to be different and I celebrate my differences. So I think that my ideal reader is somebody who celebrates differences. And I mean, I love my sisters. I love myself. Follow me on social media. TikTok is where I'm most active. If you try to follow me on Facebook, you can do that, but I'm probably not gonna respond. I also don't like Instagram because that's for YNs and I am not that. Um you can catch me basically live every day for the next 22 days on TikTok because I got my 30-day writing challenge and we still got 22 days left. Also trying to
So
see if I can spark up. What'd you say?
when does the writing challenge end? What's the date?
Ooh, I think it is May 11th. I
So
th-
that's the same week that this episode will be released.
well, then that's actually really perfect. Well, unfortunately, y'all are gonna miss the writing challenge, but you can still catch me live plenty of those days after, because I'm definitely thinking about swinging back around the writing marathon.
Yes. So this episode will be airing on the 16th, I believe. So you guys probably will have missed the writing challenge by then, but we will be in Atlanta for Black Romance Fest the next week. So that'll be in the next 2 weeks, I guess, on the 29th. So if you have any questions, you can always ask Author Nastee. But thank you, Tabby, for doing this interview with me, Author
It's so
Nastee.
much
I I
fun.
know I tried to make it, good because
You made me very proud.
sometimes
The questions were great.
yes, I'm so proud. I'm so happy that you enjoyed it. So until next time, thank you guys for listening to Voices Beyond the Pages, and we'll see you next time. Bye. And just like that, we've reached the end of a conversation that'll be replaying in your head for a while. To sit across from someone I love so deeply and admire so fiercely and witness her break down her art with that kind of honesty, that's sacred. Author Nastee is a storyteller in the truest sense. She shapes entire worlds, folds them into her paragraphs, and leaves us better than she found us, with every book, every line, every layered moment. If this episode lit a fire in you, don't let it burn out. Go read Brothers Unholy. Support Black indie authors who are doing it for the culture, for the community, and for the craft. And if you need a sign to write your story, speak your truth, or build your own world from scratch, this is it. Until next time, thank you for tuning into Voices Beyond the Pages, where stories and voices meet. You're going to love it here.